bright and early here with Dan Edmunds, not to be confused with the owner of Edmunds.com.
No.
But out here today with a, I guess it's your regular Tuesday test day, and today we have a couple of really cool cars, Porsche GT2RS.
Right.
Leuxs LFA, which we've had on CarCast before. Adam's tooled around, and the fine folks at Lexus has brought one in. And the Nissan Leaf, which is really the odd man out, I'm thinking, today.
It's the other end of the spectrum.
Tell us about what you guys are doing here today. We want to come out and see what you guys do to test your cars, how you benchmark cars versus each other, and things like that.
Well, as you said, we come out here to Auto Club Speedway in Fontana every Tuesday, and we bring usually 6 to 8 cars. This is a little bit of a light week for us. We have 3, but of course, you know, we're making up for it with all the horsepower. If you add up all the horsepower of these 3 cars, it's probably the 6 we normally bring out here.
Yeah, I think given what the Porsche is putting out, that's good for probably 2 or 3 of your normal cars.
Exactly. So what we do here is we're here at the drag strip, and we do 0 to 60, we do quarter mile, we do 60 to 0 braking distance, and then we've got a slalom and a skid pad set up, and so we can measure some basic handling parameters. And then we also put in noise meters in the car and measure how much noise they make cruising at wide open throttle, which is going to be kind of interesting with these 2 cars here today, especially the LFA. That thing sounds like the Long Beach Grand Prix going by.
It's kind of one of those cars designed to be noisy for the feel of it. And, the data from this car ends up at Edmunds and Inside Line? Or?
Both. It depends on you know, the story. If there's a story on Inside Line, our test data will be part of that story. It also goes into a database that we use to rate cars on the website. That shows up on Edmunds, so the speed and the quietness and the handling metrics get used in the ratings process. So some of it's not real obvious, and some of it's very obvious on Inside Line.
Now, when I'm looking for this information, can I find that one page that has all the rankings of the car? Is it set up that way, or do I have to look at it car by car?
It's usually set up for shoppers who are looking at particular cars, but at the same time, if they have like some parameters that they have about price, number of seats, they can get a list that will then be able to show them the various ratings.
Comparing.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Exactly. Some of them, the consumer's not necessarily interested in how fast the quarter mile will go by in a Leaf, but at the same time they can kind of imagine what a freeway merge would be like when they're comparing that to other cars. You know, stopping distance has a safety implication. For people who want to track a car, it has a performance implication. So the data can be looked at different ways by different people. And, you know, we have the LFA and the GT2 out here. It's not necessarily for the consumer so much, as you pointed out, but you know, the enthusiasts want to be able to...
It's for you and your guys to be able to spank a couple of cars in a quarter mile.
And
what I'm guessing here.
There's that, and then there's Inside Line, which, you know, is kind of oriented towards enthusiasts and people who are between car purchases, who still want to read about cars, who are geeked out about this kind of stuff, and they just want to see what the latest car can do, even though they'll never buy one.
Tell us a little about what you guys got going on here and how you measure all this stuff live as you guys are driving.
Right. Well, we use a GPS-based system called a Vbox, made by Race Logic in the United Kingdom. And it measures, the one we use is a Vbox 3, it measures data at 100 hertz, which is 100 data points per second. And it uses this GPS antenna, which is normally magnetically attached to the car, but of course this is
carbon
not
fiber, plastic,
ferrous material, so we've got a little tape here, a little racer's tape. And then inside, the Vbox itself sits in a little caddy on the passenger seat, and then up here on the dash there is a readout that the driver can see, so they can get feedback on the stopping distance they just ran or the acceleration. They'll tell them they're 0 to 60 in a quarter mile in real time. Those won't be the official numbers, because the official numbers, we use a weather station, which is actually over here. We correct it to the standard atmospheric conditions, but at least when he's doing the test, he'll get some feedback to know that, okay, he's got a couple of good runs, that was his best one, he's been able to back it up, it wasn't just a fluke. You know, we're trying to give consumers the real story.
I like that, because you find often in many of the commercial, we'll call them the more publicized car magazines, that things are not quite right, and you take it with a grain of salt. And I like seeing stuff where you guys out here are doing a really good job of doing a thorough test as well as fair testing for what the consumer would do, and then publishing it without the taint of a sponsor. And I think that's really commendable for you guys. And I know I've known Edmunds for years and years back in the old days before they even had the Inside Line, and you were even probably working.
Right, I was working somewhere else at that point.
All right. testing today. I've seen every test you guys done, from audio in the cab, 0 to 60, slalom, skid pad, the drag race, which had somewhat surprising results. And tell us a little bit about what happened with the Porsche versus LFA run.
Well, you know, this wasn't necessarily intended to be a comparison, but you have two cars like this at the track on the same day.
Gotta line them up.
You gotta line them up. So, you know, it was a little surprising with something like 75 horsepower or more advantage.
400 pounds off the
Yeah, I thought the
chassis?
GT2 was going to walk all over it, and it didn't work out that way. The LFA turns out that it launches
solid,
really quick. Something in the 3.8 range. We haven't crunched our data. We don't know the exact number until we get back and apply the weather correction.
Where can we find that data?
That's going to be www.insideline.com. It'll be a big story on the front page, but if you are seeing this later and you want to look it out, there's a search box and you can put in LFA test and that'll show up there. And you'll get all the specs and all the results that we got from today. And it's going to be pretty cool.
So bottom line is the LFA held its own, even though it was down, you know, a good chunk of horsepower, a little portly weight-wise, and
not too bad.
Not too bad. I mean, we watched it. It launches. Your drivers are damn good. I might compliment them for getting the Porsche moving, because it seemed to just not want to get out of the hole, out of its own way.
Yeah.
And about mid-track, it starts coming alive. But
the horsepower really takes over mid-track, but it just doesn't launch. It's got these really sticky tires that are probably intended for road racing, and here we're just not able to you know, they're applying so much to the transmission that it's going into a protect mode.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cutting back on the power, and it's just not letting it all have everything at the launch.
All the technology is hampering the stoplight racer. Achtung, baby, get those cars working, because this is California, and the only place we race is stoplight to stoplight.
Yeah, but on the Nürburgring, I think it'd be a different story.
How are we getting there?
Well, that's true.
Anyways, Dan, really appreciate you
problem.
letting us take a peek behind the scenes here at your operation. InsideLine.com, Edmunds.com.
Exactly.
All the information on the cars, the testing. We could show some stuff on the Leaf, but you know, let's just
leave that for another time.
We'll leave that as the teaser, because we know that everybody's going to they're not going to want to look at these cars. They're going to want the data in the Leaf, and we won't give it to them.
We'll whet their appetite with this.
That's right.
And then that'll be dessert.